Welcome to another Speed Secrets webinar. Usually when I'm doing these, I'm doing them myself and I'm talking about driving. And this one's just a little bit different. We are going to focus on the Garmin Catalyst, and we have a couple of guests from Garmin who I'll introduce here in a moment. But the purpose of this webinar is to talk about the Garmin Catalyst, specifically what's new with the Catalyst. We did a webinar Chalktalk back in March of this year to kind of introduce and go through some of the basics of the Catalyst and to talk about sort of some best practices in terms of using it as a self-coaching tool. And we're going to kind of mostly just focus on what's new with the Catalyst. So we're going to focus on that. We're then going to go into talking about the Garmin Catalyst app, which I know some of you might be going, there's an app, but there is an app. It's been out for a few months now, but there's also been just some very, very recent updates to it as well. So we'll go through that as well. We'll do a little bit of a demo on that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a fun little video project we got going that we'd like your participation in. And then we'll jump into just the overall Q&A session. So while we're going along through this session, if you want to type in a question, go ahead. Sometimes they come through so quickly that they're hard to keep up with. My lovely assistant, Robin, is always here checking and keeping track of all the questions. We also have Quinn in the background of the Garmin studio there to help on that end of things. So that's what we're going to do. That's our focus for tonight. And yeah, I'm excited and relieved to have two experts from Garmin here. We have Griffin Whybra. Griffin, there you go, Griffin. Thanks for being on here. And Griffin is part of the development team. He's the guy that, I don't know, he does all that code stuff and makes magic happen, all that computer stuff. And we also have JD Krull. JD is...
Good evening.
I always have to mention JD is employee number one of Garmin. So he's been around Garmin for quite a while. He's probably, well, no, not probably, a leading expert in the whole GPS satellite technology things. And but the cool thing about both JD and Griffin, them being part of the development team and the ongoing development and testing of the Garmin Catalyst is they're also track rats. They're addicts. Griffin has a Camaro. What model, Griffin?
It's SS1LE.
Okay, SS1LE. Fun car. And JD has a couple of track rat cars, a Mustang GT350R, right?
Correct.
And Porsche Turbo as well. So, these guys, when they're not working on the Catalyst, they're off playing on the track as well. So that's been one of the fun things for me in being part of or working with the Catalyst is it's not just a bunch of engineers who know nothing about the product, like using the product. So Griffin and JD are going to be our experts for this evening. And so we're going to just jump right into this thing. And guys, do you want to just go through and talk about what's some of the new features of the Garmin Catalyst, and which, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty much all the updates have been, most of the updates anyways, have been based around or come from suggestions, feedback, input that you've gotten from customers, right?
Yeah. And actually, Ross, most of the updates from the last Chalktalk till now are really driven by that. So a couple to go over. The first one is, you might have noticed in the last couple months, there's this new graphic when you go drive. It's like this circle with like some coordinates and some moving lines. And that's our new GPS readiness graphic. And what that allows you to do is, it's a better idea of like, okay, how good is my GPS right now? And it gives the customer a better idea of how do I make my GPS better? And so you can see, for example, maybe the east and the west sides show all green and the north is red. Well, that means that you don't have a lot of good coverage on that north end. So it guides you in an intuitive way to grab those satellites in that area to get better GPS positioning. Another thing as well is we've all been in situations where something crazy has happened in the first warm-up lap of an event. And previously we didn't have that recorded, but now as soon as you get 25 miles an hour, that video starts and it records whatever craziness happens when the track is cold and people aren't aware that the track's cold. Two other things we added was as you view the videos on device, there's a new button that allows you to go back 5 seconds. So very good for skimming around and then missing what you're looking for a hot second. So you go back 5. And then the last thing is on our page with the opportunities, we had the thumbnails for braking, and a couple customers have thought, this is great. We can see exactly where these breaking points are, but I want to look super deep and see where exactly it is. So one thing we did is made it so you can blow it up full screen. And those are the couple of the changes that we've made since the last Chalk Talk.
So can we just go back to that screen there?
Yeah.
Quinn, could you jump back to the one where the thumbnails are down in the corner down there? And because I want to point, like, I've talked to a lot of drivers who, they're looking at the screen and they don't realize that those thumbnails down in the bottom left-hand corner, what they do. And yeah, you just touch one of the thumbnails and it pops up to that comparison, which I think is one of the most valuable tools. A number of drivers have said, like the Catalyst will say, on one lap you braked, 11 feet later. And you're kind of going, what does 11 feet later really look like? Or 27 feet later or whatever. And that's the cool thing about that is you can just jump right into those and it stops there at the exact point where you applied the brakes. And you can just look at that and go and compare how much closer you are to the end of the wall on your optimal lap versus your average lap. So that's a super valuable tool. Thanks for adding that, guys, because that's a cool thing. I also like that the little button that allows you to skim back 5 seconds on the video. Been helpful for me anyway. So.
Oh yeah, I use that go back 5 seconds a lot when I'm working with a student and we're reviewing a fairly tight section of a turn. And you can watch yourself go through it, back up, watch yourself go through it again, and look for all the little details without having to hunt and peck and rewind and just spend all your time wasted trying to find the place in the track again.
Yeah. So, and again, cool thing is these have been based on feedback you guys have gotten, right? And actually, maybe we should just mention that right now is, if you have feedback, if you have questions, if you have ideas, you can submit them to you guys, right? What's the email address? Ooh, nicely done, Quinn. Garmin Pit Crew at garmin.com. So feel free to jump in there and send a message off to, I don't know. I hope you guys aren't spending all day just reading emails and you're actually getting the chance to do these updates. So, yeah. So, but I guess one of the cool, great updates in a way is the introduction of the Catalyst app, which I think launched in around June, July-ish in that area. And then there's been a lot of updates in the last little bit here. So want to take us on a little bit of a tour of the app?
You bet. So you've seen this interface before, but there have been a few new updates. One that I really like, since I have a few vehicles, I can touch up in the upper right-hand corner the all vehicles label, and it lists all the cars that I've driven on this Catalyst device. So I can.
You really are a track rat.
I went and counted this afternoon. I've only driven 56 days this year, calendar year. But you can see here are some tracks, a few custom ones at the bottom that I've driven in the Turbo S. And if I go back to, here's my main track car, my GT350R. Here's the tracks that I've done. If you notice, each time I'm selecting one of these, let's go to one that's really easy. It shows you the stats for that particular car. This just happens to be one where I created a custom profile just to test doing the entire track in 5th gear in my Mustang GT. I had fun that session. I was playing with an old one of my original instructors and mentors in his Mini. So I converted my Mustang GT into a momentum car, and we had a lot of fun playing together. I'll go back to the all vehicles. All right. So new features. One of the most fun things for me is if I go to one of my sessions, let's just pick Barber. I can sort these laps by best lap, touch on the lap time, and it takes me to that session. All right. If you notice the big yellow button in the very middle of the screen, show leaderboard, I'll touch on that, and up pops for calendar year 2022 at Barber. Here are all the Catalyst users, cars and times. For some, if you opt in to be visible, you can also get your profile picture and your name. If you notice number 3 here, it's a friend of mine, Scott Donahue, has his picture and his name associated with where he is on the leaderboard. And we can scroll through a few of these. You see, here's me way down at 17 in the same car. Keep going. I'm just going to go to the bottom of the list here. And you can see that there's been a few people, 76 Catalyst users at Barber. In addition to that, we go back to the top. I can look at other years. So here's the 2021 users in that board. Or I can go to the very session that this was recorded in, or everybody that was there on that day driving at Barber. So you kind of get the idea. Let me jump back and pick another example. Here's my favorite track today, Ozarks International Raceway. Again, I'm going to sort by best lap, pull my top one up, show leaderboard. Here's a few that have been to the new track near Lake of the Ozarks in the middle of Missouri. Scroll down through, you can see a few of my friends at the top there. And if I remember right, somewhere in here, there's another friendly face. There's Griffin. And 52 people have used their Catalyst this calendar year at Ozarks. One other thing, whoops, too far. Let's go back to our home track, Heartland Motorsports Park. And you'll see all of these different configurations. So it's a leaderboard for every configuration. So if I look at the Grand Prix Slow 8, it's the most popular configuration at this track. There's my best lap. We look at the leaderboard for 2022. You can see, again, a few of my friends. They're showing up here. Not necessarily friends on the Catalyst app. If you opt in to be included in the leaderboard, you'll show up for everybody to see. I would encourage everyone to do that. So again, there I am at number 11. And I'm betting we scroll down through here a ways. There's Griffin coming up fast. All right. So beyond that, we talked about friends. Well, here's another new feature. Literally, and hey, I've got some new friend requests I need to go address. We had a seminar for Europe earlier this afternoon, and so I think I've picked up a few more friends from that.
So nice.
Anyway, you can see a few that have already gotten added. So once you are friends with somebody, you can then see them on your leaderboard, even if they've not opted in to show the entire public. But more importantly, the other feature that we've gotten a lot of requests for, and I suspect many of you will like, we now have, I need to slow down and describe what I'm doing. But when I get to the session summary page, if you notice up in the upper right, there's two arrows pointed at each other. So I'm going to touch on those. and select Compare with Friends. So for the first time on the Catalyst universe, you can now pick a friend. I'm going to pick Scott Donahue here because I know he and I were practicing at Whybra earlier this year, and then went back for one lap of America where Scott turned to 1:34.59. And I'm going to select that lap to compare against my best lap. There, everything's coming in. And now I'm going to touch again in the upper right the graphs button. And then I'm going to turn the tablet sideways, landscape mode, where we get the best use of real estate. And this might be a good point. Ross, can you help me figure out how to
can I jump in here?
Scott?
Yeah, I get excited when I start looking at this because I'm going, ooh, yeah. I want to start coaching here a little bit. So comparing JD's lap, which are the squiggly lines in white, and Scott's, which are the ones in blue, we can learn a lot. But where I always start when I look at this, I look at the bottom graph, which is the time compare, or sometimes referred to as the delta. And the great thing about it is it helps you prioritize where you should be, what you should be looking for, and how you can, what are your priorities. And in fact, when the Catalyst starts looking for the top 3 opportunities for you, it's basically using this. It's using it and going, where's the biggest opportunities? And JD, if you click on right about on the quarter mile in, you can see where exactly right there, where the delta starts to drop off steeply. That's where we start to see a big gain. And if you just scroll ahead until the breaking point for the next turn, which is turn 5 at Whybra, you can see that from there, back to where we started, you lost about a second compared to Scott in that section. From there back to, and if you scroll back to where the delta starts to drop down steeply, right about there, you can see it's just coming out of 2 or going through 2 and into 3, but it's primarily turns 3 and 4 where the big difference is and where you really start to lose compared to Scott. And if you stop there, you can see the speed difference in the very top graph, where if we look over there, the difference there, it's 10 miles an hour difference. So, and if anybody has ever been to Whybra or driven Whybra, you know that turn 4, you come through turn 3, you're going downhill, and then you come up the hill, and then you crest the hill in the middle of a corner. And it is I'm going to say intimidating part of the track. And, no doubt, JD, with your few laps there, and you can actually see in the longitudinal acceleration in the second graph down, which anything going up is acceleration, or you're on the throttle. Anything going down below that dotted line is deceleration or braking. And in this case, both of you are on the throttle, but you can see that Scott's harder in the throttle and stays consistently in the throttle, whereas right there, you're in the throttle, and then you ease off the throttle. And it's probably just more laps, you knowing exactly where the car is going to go when you crest that hill. But if you were looking at this, that would be immediately where you'd go, okay, I need to work on that part of the track because I'm losing a lot there. And by the way, this is, I've been asked, does the Catalyst connect with the car's OBD2 so that, it's pulling data from the throttle and brake? And the answer is no, you don't need that, because you can just look at this and go, again, anything going up, that's on the throttle. Anything going down, that's on the brakes. And with a little bit of experience, not a lot, but with a little bit of experience of you looking at these lines, you can start to really analyze and really dig into the data that you've collected, or in this case, being able to compare it to another driver. And in your case, JD, having Scott driving your car, so these are same car, same track, just 2 different drivers. So we can look at that. I would look at that and go, okay, there's a big opportunity. That's what the Catalyst would also say. The next opportunity is where the delta starts to drop off again quite steeply, and it's right in this section here. And again, you can see the difference in speed in that top graph between Scott and JD. And, you know, you can start to kind of look at the throttle and you go, okay, yeah, Scott's on the throttle more than you are. JD, you're kind of just maintaining through there. And yeah, being able to zoom in is super helpful. But one of the things that I noticed earlier on when that first popped up, if you go over and click on the overview button up in the top left-hand corner of the screen, just below the compare there, we actually see the line through that corner. And if you look, zoom in there, if we zoom in on the map, you can see the difference. If any of you on here has have driven Barber, you know that little twisty little section into the museum corner, 8-9, the trick there is how much curb are you going to use? Scott is using a lot of curbing on that left-hand little kink, and JD, you're not. I don't know if you had traffic or whatever, but on these particular laps, Scott is using a lot more curbing. And, you know, obviously that's somewhat dependent on how much you want to go over curbs, how your car handles curbs, that kind of thing. But right away it goes, okay, here's part of that for you, JD, is use more curbing. So then if we go back to the graphs again.
Hang on just a second. How about we show on the Catalyst what that might look like?
Okay, cool. You're going to do that, aren't you?
It's coming.
Yeah.
So here's Scott at Barber. We're going to jump around.
Here we go. So look at the curbing that he climbs over right there.
Yeah, look at that.
Okay.
That dog, he's cheating. He took a shortcut.
Yeah.
Are you using that 5 seconds back button?
I am, JD.
Hey, that's clever. Go 5 more.
So again, Scott's got a very nice line through here, nice straight, braking here, turns in and gets out of there. So,
boy, that sure set him up nice for that right-hand turn.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Back to the tablet.
Back to the app.
The app.
We look
yep.
at, yeah. We look at this and go, okay, so that's exactly what you want to work on. And so then I would go along and go, okay, where's the next place where we start to see the delta time compare graph? Right about there. That's that fast section of turn 14 at Barber. Again, challenging, intimidating when you don't have a lot of laps. And, you know, we can look at this and go, if you go to the peak on the blue there, what's his speed? Go forward there. Or, yep. There you go. Yeah, we can look at that and go, Scott, you're looking over in the bottom left there. You can go, Scott's at 96.1. You're at 83 miles an hour. So 13 miles an hour difference right there. And, you know, we can see from the second graph down the acceleration. He's in the throttle longer than you are. And in the lateral cornering acceleration or G, you can see that he's using more cornering grip going through that corner. So, you know, the good news is for you, JD, is you go, yeah, car can do it, can't it? So that's the good news. And also what you can do then is go back and watch his video a number of times just to make sure that where he's placing the car is any different than what you're doing as well, which is obviously going to help that. So, you know, I guess what I like about the addition of the app now is it allows you to go even deeper than you could in the past. And also, I think what's great is, you know, if you're depending on your learning style, you know, if you're a auditory learner and, you know, if you're an auditory learner, you can just get in the car, let Ms. Catalyst, or as I call her, Cat, talk to you while you're driving and Cat's going to tell you what to do. And that's fantastic. That works for you. If you're more of a visual learner, you can watch the videos. But now you can also, if you're that kind of way, if you think that way in terms of data and squiggly lines, you can dig in with the app like this and really, I guess, dig in a little deeper, understand it a little bit, or in a different way. So it appeals to, part of it is your learning style and how you like to get the feedback to help you, to help you drive even better. And some of you may know, but on something that I put together is kind of how I like to use the Catalyst. And I basically look at it as how much time do I have to look at it? And I wrote this piece called the 5-15-1 process. And it's basically, if you have 5 minutes between sessions, here's what you do. If you have 15 minutes between sessions, here's what you do. If you have 1 hour or more, here's what you do. And, if I had 5 minutes only, I'm not sure I'd be looking at the app in those lines. But if I had 15 minutes, I'm going to start to do a quick little overview of that. If I've got more than an hour or more, I'm definitely digging into the to the app as well. So it's I guess, great companion and allows you to dig in just as deep as you want to go. By the way, if you want that 5-15-1 process document, it's a PDF, and it just basically walks you through how I like to use it as a self-coaching tool. You can go to my website, speedsecrets.com, go to the resources in it, and it's right there. So
one of the things that we might touch on, Ross, is that you didn't need a computer to get to the data on this app. It literally all goes directly from the Catalyst to the Garmin Cloud back down to your mobile application. No cables required. Everything just goes wireless over Wi-Fi, up and back down. And just by the way, I mean, somebody, I just looked over there for the questions, and somebody said, how do you get the app? So go to the Google Play Store on an Android device, or go to the Apple
the App Store
on a Apple device.
Yep. Type in Garmin Catalyst.
Yep.
Pop up.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about the new app. So really useful thing. And again, so much of it is because of the feedback that you've gotten from customers, right? I know that one of the things that in the past, I guess almost 2 years now, is I have been going to a number of different events, and at each of these events, a couple people from Garmin, JD, Griffin, Quinn, some of the other teams, part of the development team, have come to these events and allowed us to do some demos of the Catalyst, but also kind of do some coaching with it as well. And it's been really fun to see or talk to customers a year ago and then see, oh, here's that customer, what they wanted right here. So it's kind of fun to see that. So, okay, so we can jump into the Q&A session. I know that we've got tons and tons of questions, so we might as well jump into that as quickly as you can. However, before we do, I want to touch on one other fun project that we're working on together, and that is we're asking you to upload your optimal lap from your favorite track. So pick your favorite optimal lap, pick your favorite track, and upload it to my own personal Dropbox. And there's a link we'll share with you here in a minute on the screen there, and we're going to put it into the chat box as well. But all you got to do is click on that link, and you can go there and you can upload your optimal lap. And what we're going to do with that is, over some amount of time, I don't know what some is, but some amount of time, is we're going to select optimal laps, and then we're going to create some short little videos that point out what the driver is doing so well, and then make that public so that people will learn and see on this track that, For example, Scott's line through turns 8, 9, museum turns at Barber could be a great example of that. So we'll create these little mini videos around how to create your own optimal laps by driving more like these other drivers as well. So it's going to be a great little coaching tool, but we're looking to kind of outsource the collection of these videos to drivers like you. So please, if you want to become famous in the internet world, because at some point when we create these things and put them out there, you're going to be able to go, hey, that's me. So that'll be kind of fun.
And for any people who are not aware of how they want to capture that optimal video to send to Ross, what we want to do is have those videos that have the overlays. And so let's say, for example, in this session right here, you wanted to get this optimal lap to Ross. So what you'll do here is you'll tap on the laps button, and then you'll tap on your optimal lap time right here. And then you'll press the thumbnail in the bottom right. And then in the top right up here, there's that little thumbnail icon. You can tap that, and then you'll tap next, and then I'll save that video with overlays. And once that's done, you can send that over to Ross.
Yeah, I'm excited about doing this. This is gonna be kind of fun. So please, we did a session earlier today for aim kind of time wise for people in Europe, and I think it was like 3 minutes after we ended, there was a couple of videos already uploaded from some European tracks. So this is going to be really cool to see when we can put those together. So with that said, wow, we got a lot of questions. And actually, one other thing I'm gonna mention is, and I touched on this earlier, is we did that Chalk Talk earlier in the year. So if there's some kind of, I'm going to say, relatively basic stuff about how to use the Garmin Catalyst, you probably want to go back and check that as well. I think we loaded that up earlier on with a link to that. We'll also share that link again. And but now we'll jump into some questions, and this is going to be fun. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Go.
Yeah. Okay. So Jared's got the first question. And of course, it's a two-parter, I think. So will the new app comparison features ever be available in a browser for non-tablet users?
Not planned.
Not planned, yeah.
Okay. In those comparisons, will a feature to compare the line between two laps be available?
Feature compare two laps between a line.
Well, basically, that's kind of what we did.
Yeah.
Comparing JD and Scott. So yes, I hope we're answering the question the way you meant it to be asked. But yeah, the simple answer is yes.
Maybe you didn't understand that we had selected two different users for that comparison.
Or maybe he asked the question before we got there. So
yes. Could be.
Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
So you can
Larry
see here,
asked,
this one's JD's lap, and then this one's Scott's. Okay. And then also they can pick any of their laps, including their optimal lap to compare as well.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Okay, so Larry asked, with new tech, I always ask if this thing breaks or is lost or stolen, how do I get all my data back? Can you explain this process for the Catalyst? If I have to buy a new one, how do I get all my data back onto the new device?
Sadly, there's not a way to restore data. We're not capturing everything that would be required, and there's not a process by which we can put data back on a new Catalyst. So your data, once you've synced it to the Garmin cloud, will always be there. You'll always be able to see all of your data on the tablet, I should say the mobile application on a phone or the tablet. But you won't be able to get that data back on a different Catalyst device.
Okay. Karen asks, one of my races isn't showing up in the Catalyst app. How do I add it?
Something might be going on there, Karen. It might be best to contact our support, and they'll be able to help you out and assist with that specific issue.
Yeah, Karen, because it probably requires knowing just a little bit more to help you help with that. But I know some drivers who have contacted Garmin support and been very happy with the way they've been helped with that. So, and I knew, we always know this question is going to come up. Anthony asked, any chance adding OBD to get more data? I think I kind of answered it earlier, is you don't need it. It's all there, but you guys can answer it as well. So
yes, there are no plans currently to add.
Yes. Okay. Ari asked, a couple of times at the track, the Catalyst has had issues where it won't record the session. It doesn't recognize that I'm on track even after many laps. What should be the order of finding out the issue?
I would say probably the quickest way is you can also contact support with that issue and give us some information on, which session, when did that take place during your track experience, and then we can also look into that.
I would say a common problem I have seen is that people start driving before the GPS is ready. There's a fairly significant step where the device has to collect detailed data from the satellites in order to know where they are in orbit before it can use that satellite to triangulate your position. So one of the worst environments that I can remember, we were at Indianapolis Motor Speedway and everybody got a garage. It was so exciting until we realized those garages were like, nuclear fallout bunkers. And there was no way GPS signal was making it through those bunkers. And so you'd come straight out of the garage, head to the track, and never have an opportunity to collect the data that's required. And so many of the users at that event struggled some because they missed that very critical step. The feature that Griffin was describing earlier, we're hoping can help because it will notify you that, hey, wait, we don't have the data that we know is available. So if you could just wait a little bit, 1 minute is long enough, but you just need to hold still for that minute and not be driving by obstructions that are breaking the line of sight connection to a satellite while it's doing that critical download. The download, the data comes down at a fairly slow data rate. It takes 22 seconds, and that's only available once every 30 seconds. So if you miss that window, it's a 30-second penalty. If you miss it again, then it could perpetually just be trying to restart. Anytime you reorient your car, depending on where you have the device tablet mounted in your car, the GPS antenna is in the back upper part of the device. And so you need to make sure that can see out the windshield or out a window. Ideally, you want to be able to see up and behind you at least some. If you have a metal roof, you do not want to mount it up high under the roof. That's one of the absolute worst places. You also don't want to mount it down below the dash too low, such that it can't see over the dash forward or out the windows sideways.
And if you have a 6th generation Camaro, nowhere neither of those are A-pillars at all.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that is one of the most challenging vehicles we have experienced. One like Griffin's.
Yeah. Way to go, Griffin. It's good. It's good to have the most challenging one so you guys can work on it. So yeah.
Helps us best.
Yes. Matthew asked, can you give an example of how the Catalyst would help someone drive faster? Ooh. Can I answer?
Ross.
Basically, listen to the Catalyst. So, and I know this sounds very simple, but the great thing is that the Catalyst is finding every last little tiny subtle variations in the way you drive. And anytime that you do something that's a little bit better, it's going to encourage you to do that thing again and again and again. And then as soon as you do that again, you're probably going to have some variation again. And anytime that you have that variation that's better, it's going to encourage you to do more of that. So basically, that's how the Catalyst works. And it's giving you real-time feedback. So, rather than looking at those squiggly lines, be like behind the guys right now, looking at them after a session and going, oh yeah, okay, well, next session, I'm going to, I'm going to drive a straight line over the curb in turn 8 at Barber. Rather than that, it's going to actually, as you approach that, it's going to say, keep left or keep pushing, or all the audio cues and triggers to help you do that real time rather than waiting. And that's, in a nutshell, very short, Matthew, that's how it works. And that's how it helps drivers go faster. Is it Roman or Raymond? Is there some way to have it not compute the first lap from the 25 miles an hour? With our track configuration, I always end up with my out lap as the fastest part of the segment, which is not possible on a real lap. I try to slow down, but sometimes you're told to hit it for coming traffic. So any way to turn off that function, feature, or whatever, so it doesn't collect data from the out lap?
As in, do we think he's talking about the video or the lap data?
I'm reading this as the data is, he says, with our track configuration. So I don't know what track or configuration, but the out lap may have a fastest part of the segment, which, and I don't know if it's the exit of pit lane just happens to work that way. That results in, I'm going to say, a fast segment on the out lap, but it can't be reproduced when you are on track. So is there a way to turn off it collecting data from the out lap?
I guess I'm confused. So we're going to need more data, more information.
Yeah.
Again, I would say go back to, send an email to the Garmin pit crew at garmin.com and explain your situation, and somebody can help. That's not the way it's intended to work. It might be helpful just to talk through what is really happening from a sequence perspective. Once you touch drive, the device is alive and waiting for you to start moving. And once you reach 25 mile per hour, the idea being you're not sitting in grid anymore and you're actually at least proceeding out into the pit road, then, all right, you're moving, you're in the environment, you're not driving through the paddock, you didn't drive while you're in your garage, right? You're in the track environment. So it starts recording the video. It does not start recording data unless you are literally on the track. I mean, part of the surface. If you cross the start-finish line physically, right, between the sides of the track as defined in the built-in data, or even the track that you've customly created and assigned a start-finish, then it waits for you to make a warm-up lap and come by and cross start-finish. Now, once you, again, cross start finish on track or above 55 mile per hour, just in case the data is off slightly, if you're driving 55 in the pit road, it will start. So that might be another possibility. But even so, it will only start recording data at that point that you've crossed the start finish line. So, or possibly the extended start-finish line at above 55 mile per hour.
So I've seen Raymond's comments here, and he says that it's actually starting to collect it from in the hot pit. So I think this is one of those ones where you're better off reaching out and connecting with the guys at Garmin. Yeah, just reach out there, and they can probably dig in, and you start showing them your data, and they can dig in a little deeper. Patrick asked, can you explain the apex and turn-in symbols? They're close together and across the track from each other. How do we best use these? I'm going to show something here.
Let's go and find a turn.
If you click on apex there.
There you go.
Yes.
So the question was, how is to best utilize these?
Yeah, just explain. I mean, basically on this one, what I see are the turn-in point and the apex point being really close together for both. The pink-purple one is the optimal lap, and the white one is the average lap.
Yep. And so where a user could derive a lot of information from this is when they are not so close that they are overlapping. So if there is a significant difference between your turn-in or apex points, that is an opportunity right there that you can identify, oh, the optimal lap has these two different turn-in apex points. I should aspire to move my average more towards that optimal lap, which will gain you that time savings. But if it just sits and it's right next to each other, there's not a lot to gain from the apex and turn-in points of that segment of the track.
Okay. So next question, Jay asks, can you add the ability to set segments on the system? I know it will give you 3 areas to work on at a time. However, would the system benefit from segments you can set yourself?
As in coaching segments, I think, is what he's getting at.
Not sure I understand the question, but I will say that every segment is available for review. From the session summary page, the lower right-hand corner has a segments, and from there you can walk through every segment around the lap. By default, the Catalyst identifies the 3 segments that you could save the most time, so it pulls those to the top and presents those as your opportunities. Right? These are the places where you can make up the most time as compared between your average and your optimal performance.
And I'm just going to jump in and say, from what my understanding is, no, you as a user cannot change those. You can't change where it picks up one segment and starts the next segment. Unless you guys tell me that I've missed something. But
correct. You are correct.
Yeah. And by the way,
segments are auto-determined. Yeah. When the device first experiences a track configuration, you tell it what track you're about to drive, and then it learns it. It pays attention to where you brake and where you turn. So segments are defined by braking zone, the beginning of a braking zone to the beginning of the next braking zone, or by turning or stop turning, or turning directly from one direction to another direction. Any one of those plus the start-finish line will create a segment break.
And I can tell you that an extreme amount of thought went into that. And I can also tell you that if you work with any data engineer with any other system and you say, how do you set up the segments? They're going to say the exact same thing. They just do it manually. So, hey, Jeff asked, how do I show this to my class on a large screen? Is this a Garmin staff only feature like you're doing here? And I get to answer this one because I know that you guys are kind of not allowed to talk about this, but I know that there is a tool out there called Screen Copy, although to me it looks like Scrippy, the way it's written out, but it is a tool, and if you're just slightly technically capable, you can go and search it on Google, look for Screen Copy, use this app or this tool, and you will be able to connect it to your Catalyst to a screen. But I know that Garmin can't support you on that because it is a third-party app. They can, so if you have problems with it, do not call Garmin and say, help me fix this thing, because it's not theirs. They can't help you with that. But I do know that it's possible to be done, having seen it. And I'm kind of hoping that, there's a little hint. I'm kind of hoping that somebody might just kind of write up a few notes of, here's how I did it, and boom, 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 boom. And maybe even it shows up on the, there's a Garmin Catalyst users group page on Facebook. Maybe it would show up there someday. Wouldn't that be fun? Okay, so Rocky asked, this is a good one. Why is the camera centered in the car versus in line with the driver's eyes?
That is a really, really great setup question. The reason is the camera is a fundamental part of the system that the Catalyst uses to collect data. So it is responsible for looking out over the front of the car, identifying the edges of the track, and where the car is from left to right in the track. Okay. So a couple other considerations. One, don't mount it way back at the back of your car so that you can see yourself in the video. That's not helpful. It wants to be able to see out. In fact, when you align the camera, it has a little white rectangular box, and you want to make sure that box is square with the car. It's really easy. If you have a car like my 911 Porsche has fenders that are as tall as the hood, so it gives you really nice reference points. You just rest the box on those fenders. Now you know it is square. You want to point it as straight ahead of you as possible so that it can see the edges of the track as close as possible to the front of the car. Otherwise, you're looking at, well, I'm going to be close to the track, but it's going to be way up there ahead of me. No, you want it to be able to see where am I right here as well as possible. So you want it high, centered, such that it can do the very best optimal performance of collecting that data to provide you valuable coaching.
Okay. Guys, we got many questions, so I might speed through a couple of them, okay? But Arnie asked, how do you opt in? And I know he was related that to when you were talking about opting in to being able to share your data and be on the leaderboard. How do
All right, let me try to get there quickly.
Yep.
From the homepage on the mobile app, lower right corner, touch profile. Upper right corner, touch the gear settings icon. Under privacy, there's leaderboards. Mine currently says appear on leaderboards. Here you can read, and it's like, okay, option 1, I want to appear. That puts my profile picture and my name available to all the public who have driven this track configuration. Alternatively, I could say remain anonymous. That's the default, in which case my car description and lap time will be visible to anyone who's driven that configuration. And then lastly, you can touch hide my sessions from leaderboards, in which case your data will not be included on a leaderboard. And that's it.
Okay.
And then once you update your mobile app as well to the latest version, on that initial page as well, it should give the option of, hey, leaderboards are new. Which of these would you like to pick for your privacy selection?
Okay, so next question. What if you have multiple cars? Do you set what car you're using?
On the Catalyst app or the Catalyst device, you do.
So, and I would say, yes, please. That is very important.
Mm-hmm.
It organizes all of your data per car profile and per driver profile. And then beyond that, for each car, it will keep track of wet versus dry sessions. Right, all of those get categorized and organized together.
Okay. Is there any plan for a browser-based way to review or a PC app to allow review on a larger screen? I think that's what doing it on a tablet. Yeah, that works there. Brian asked, on the playback screen, what purpose did you envision the G meter serving? There is no peak, numbers, or even readout, just a reference for 2G.
So I believe he is referencing the video export. So if we, actually, I don't think we have one on here. No. But the goal of that is to just watch that GG diagram. The biggest thing is to watch all that acceleration change as you move around, which is very, very good to look at, especially on that video.
So if you go back to the squiggly lines that Ross was helping me understand how to catch up with my buddy Scott driving my car, right? In there, we had both longitudinal and lateral G references, right? So you could see. The G circle puts all that together. And here's an advertisement for Ross. If you really want a great explanation, the best one I have heard is at the beginning of Ross and Peter's track walk for CODA. Peter spends about 15 minutes telling you how to use a G circle. Go find that one, and it's worth the price of the track walk video just for that training. And then you also get another 2.5 hours of walking the track at CODA. That's very helpful if you ever go drive there.
And I would just say the the graphic of the circle helps you understand how well you are driving the car consistently through the corner. So you maybe see a spike in braking, you may see a spike in acceleration, you may see a spike in the middle of the corner, but how are you blending those together? And you don't need numbers, you don't need scales or anything like that. You're really just seeing how well you're filling out the circle. Alan asked, does the update allow us to upload to Mac? Unfortunately, I'm not.
It does because we don't support the Mac on the mobile app.
Okay, I think this comes back to, remember earlier I said you don't need a computer. So for everything we're demonstrating here tonight, there's no separate computer required. The data goes straight from the Catalyst device that you use in your car. You connect it to a Wi-Fi and then synchronize. As long as you're logged into a Garmin account that you create for yourself, it goes from the device through Wi-Fi to the Garmin cloud. Then when you pick up your mobile phone or your tablet to run your mobile application on, you sign into that very same account, and it goes again through the Wi-Fi to the cloud, grabs your data and brings it down and displays it for you on the tablet.
And we can show you right here how we get that syncing on the device itself. It's pretty simple. So make sure first to be on the driver and the data that you do want to sync up. And you can just press the setting icon here. And then at the top right here, you just tap link Garmin account. And then you can either create an account or sign into an account right here. And then once you do that, this area will populate in the bottom left, the sync icon. You will see a red circle with the amount of, cars, users, and sessions that will be uploaded when you tap that button.
Okay. Very good point. One other thing to keep in mind is that account is associated with a single driver profile.
That is
It's
correct.
not for the entire Catalyst device. So for every profile, meaning every person who uses this Catalyst device in a car needs to have their own profile and needs to have their own Garmin account, and then log into that same account on your mobile device in order to see that data.
Okay, so as I said, we have a lot of questions, to the point where I'm going to ask for those of you on here right now to actually stop asking questions right now and let us get through these ones first. And then if we've got time, we will get to some more. But always knowing that if we don't get to your questions, you can always get through to the Garmin Pit Crew and or myself afterwards. So Paul asked, will there be a way to look at the leaderboard of all time versus just by year?
Well, JD, I think you have a great answer to this. Specifically on a track we both drove recently.
So I would say that's on the wish list. It's not available today.
Okay. Matthew, can you see year-to-date best times at a track sorted by type of car?
You cannot.
I actually saw that question asked on the Facebook Garmin Catalyst user group. I think that's a great suggestion. That's also on the wish list and not available today.
And, so there's a few things here that are like, I know you guys are taking note of this, because not only are you guys online here watching all this, but all the Garmin team are watching this and paying attention. But Marvin said, can you make it possible to compare sessions between different drivers? I recently had a friend who races professionally drive my car, and it's hard to compare my laps to his. And I'm going to sort of take a stab at this a little bit in saying, because we've had this discussion many times at the track with drivers where, and I'll say, yeah, but if you had Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton, or pick your favorite driver, jump into your car, go and set a lap with your car and everything, the Catalyst would then encourage you to go and drive exactly like them. And please don't take this wrong for anybody listening to this, but maybe, just maybe, your skills are not quite as good as Verstappen or Hamilton's. And therefore, it's way better for you to have your own system and then work at comparing yourself to yourself with the optimals, but then have the opportunity to compare with a friend, which you could do on the app and looking at the lines like we did earlier.
Absolutely. The one thing I would add to that is to keep in mind that the coaching, especially the in-car real-time voice coaching, is all based on relative terms. So it is describing the difference from your intelligent average to your optimal, meaning your very best, through any particular section of the track. So when it says brake later and somebody else was driving the car, how do you know where they were braking such that you can brake later?
How do you know where later is?
It never tells you to brake later than you ever have. Keep in mind, you should understand that it's saying brake later than you typically do, like that one time that worked best. All right. So you want to always keep in mind that she's never going to recommend doing something you've not already proven to her that you can do successfully. All right. Somebody else gets in your car and proves to her they can do something bigger, deeper, so forth successfully. That may not translate to a safe thing for you to try, right? You should take an incremental approach to braking later. Don't try going halfway to the turn and see what works out.
So Kathy asked, is the leaderboard automatically uploaded, or does the user have to upload it?
Both. So remember how Griffin was pointing to the little sync button? You have to manually touch that button while you've got a Wi-Fi connection with the tablet. And that sends everything that's needed for the leaderboard up. You don't need to do anything else. It will just be there when you pull up the app to look at it. And FYI, it's going to be there for everybody else to look at. It will be anonymous until you log in and opt in. But your data will be there for anybody who's driven that track configuration.
Okay, so Josh asks, how do you send friend requests or make a group of friends on the Catalyst on the app? Yeah.
Well, let's take a look. So while I'm looking at any session, let's go to Eagles Canyon. Got my best lap there. I show leaderboard. Here's a few other people that have been there. If I find someone who's not already my friend, whoops, that's already my friend. Here's one, number 7. I touch this, and once this banner goes away, you can see at the bottom of the screen, it says add friend. That's all it takes.
The other option.
I want to point out, hold on just a second, to go to one of these that I'm not. They haven't opted in yet. Here you'll get this message. If you can't see their name, it's going to say, hey, meet this driver to connect. They remain anonymous, so seek them out at the track if you want to become friends, or talk them into opting in to appear in leaderboards, in which case then you could send them a friend request directly. Go ahead, Griffin.
And the other option is if you do know this person, but they have not appeared on any leaderboards.
Yes.
What you can do is you can go to your profile tab here and you can tap the share my card that's at the top. And then you can either copy the link or someone can scan that QR code and it'll start that process for you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I think I can even use this share button and it'll take me directly through any one of these other apps and send them that link directly.
Okay. So, guys, Eldon asked, what is the update rate for the GPS positioning and the accuracy of position?
Well, the update rate is 10 hertz. And I believe, JD, these might be so accurate that in some organizations, you might use them in replacements of transponders when they go out.
Depends on the organization. But yes, timing from the Catalyst, as well as other similar products that use similar GPS receivers that are recording updates 10 times a second, are plenty accurate to be used for such a purpose.
Yeah. How is data transferred from the Catalyst to the app? Can I do it at the track? Wi-Fi.
Correct.
And I know somebody earlier on, I saw some comment about Wi-Fi is questionable at the track. Yeah, welcome to our world.
Yes, your mileage may vary.
Yeah. Steve asked, when is a male voice option going to be added as a choice for the Audible coach? Yeah, okay. Well, we'll just move on. And oh yeah, what if Wi-Fi is not available at the track? Okay. Sorry, I don't think we can add Wi-Fi.
So I will say what I do is if there's cellular coverage, I use the data plan on my cell phone, and I turn on a hotspot on my phone that my Catalyst can use. The bandwidth doesn't need to be really, really high for the data that gets sent. So I've had reasonable luck. Now, that likewise means you have to have cellular coverage for whatever carrier you're on in order for that option to work.
Yeah. Henry asked, can you export data to a CSV?
You can.
No.
Nope. Okay. Joe asked, my wife and I share a car, so I have 2 profiles set up. Will both profiles upload to a single Catalyst app account, or do we each need an account and then share data as friends?
The second one. You will both.
Second option.
2 separate accounts.
Well, I don't know why you would want to, but yes, you could, because you can use more than one Catalyst device, right? What's going to happen is for the account on the Catalyst device, right, it's going to send to whatever Garmin account you're logged into. And if you log into the same Garmin account from 2 different profiles, then they're going to get merged in the Garmin cloud, and then you'll see the superset. But part of the reason for separating those is so you can look at them as 2 different things. Now, of course, if you're sharing a Android tablet like we're using here this evening, then you would need to sign out of the app and sign in as the other user in order to see the data, if that's why you want to merge them.
David asked, does theoretical best, I guess optimal lap, create difficult to impossible entry or exit speeds into a corner or exit that the car may not be able to hold on the track?
Pick me.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say pick me. But
I knew you were.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
This is one of the fundamental advantages of the patent pending algorithm used by the Garmin Catalyst to determine not a theoretical lap. No. This is a lap you have driven, just not all at once. And yes, this patent pending algorithm guarantees that you could transition from one, and it's not segment by segment, it's not sector. This is any point, any meter around the track where you were going the same speed, the same heading, and at the same left to right position on the track as determined by the camera, and maybe a little more secret sauce to guarantee that you could transition. Oh, and I'm getting my squirrel signal. All right, so to prove it, we create an optimal lap video. Go watch the optimal lap video and tell me where you believe you would not have been able to make that transition. I'll stop.
Okay. Nils asked, what's the Garmin team working on for 2023?
Everything.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Grant asked, if you are friends, can they see your data?
Yes. If you're like friends on the Catalyst app, as we were demonstrating earlier.
Yeah, just like when we shared JD's and Scott's together. So Kevin asked, I'm renting a Catalyst this weekend. is there a way to get my data off it so I can see it without the device?
Yes. You just create a Garmin Connect account on the device as we showed, sync that data up, and then once you download the app, all that data will stay there.
If someday you buy your own Catalyst device and create more data, it will get merged with the data in your cloud account.
Okay. Tom asked, are there updates we need to do to our tablets?
There are updates, but they have come out quite a ways ago. But if you do need to, just make sure you're connected to Wi-Fi, and there should be an update if there needs to be one. If not, there doesn't need to be one.
Yep. It tells you whether there's updates available, right?
In the view behind us, just go to that gear icon. It'll have like a red down arrow saying, hey, there's an update available for this device.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you guys are up to date. Way to go. Mike asked, are there any plans to do a live upload stream so your teammates in the pits can monitor your progress?
That is a great idea, but we are not currently doing anything like that.
Yep. Dan asked, any recommendations, differences for using the Catalyst in wheel-to-wheel racing? I'm going to say, I don't think there's any differences. I would say, I've used it in a car that I've shared with other drivers in an endurance race. And that's coming back to what JD was touching on earlier on, that you have to be careful that if the Catalyst is saying brake later because your co-driver brake later one time, you have to be smart and not just go, okay, I'm going to brake later and send the car off the track because so I would say that's really the only thing you got to be careful of, is if you're happen to be using it in an endurance race. Marcus,
so on my endurance team, we each have our own Catalyst and we literally swap it out with driver.
Yeah.
You could easily share a device and just have separate profiles. In terms of using the Catalyst, I always have mine on, the recording what I've done, whether it's an endurance race, a sprint race, whatever. Now, in a sprint race, you might not be able to utilize the coaching. Now, once I've made a pass and I'm chasing down the next group in front of me, that's like time trials, in which case I'm absolutely listening to her. And if she tells me to brake later, I will.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to catch that group in front of me. Once I catch the group, though, now I'm racing, right? So it comes down to racecraft more than coaching. We haven't talked. Okay, squirrel. Catch me at one of our track events, and I'll put my Garmin hat on, and we'll talk about strategy.
Okay. Grant asks, why can't I see the data from people who I am friends with? I don't know if that's a issue and needs to contact support, or why can't I see data from people who I'm friends with?
Well, you have to be Catalyst friends.
Yeah.
And where you would see the data is when you tap compare with friends. That is where that is exposed.
That might be the problem. You can't go directly to their account and see their data. You can only compare their data against something comparable. So you would need to go to one of your sessions, then go compare with friend, and pick one of their sessions for the same track configuration.
Okay, so Keith asked, is there a way to share the app screen when going over data with the students so that we aren't huddled over a cell phone? Chromecast or Android, maybe a Windows app for laptops. Do it on a tablet.
I think you described that earlier.
Yeah, do it on a tablet, and or if you're going to go big screen, then go look for Screen Copy and that tool to be able to do that. So, man, we still got lots of questions to go. Arnie, is it possible to include the friction circle in the video on the Catalyst? This is available in the downloaded video.
That is a great idea, but today we are not currently doing that.
Yeah, only in the saved video with overlays. It's part of the overlay creation.
So Kathy said, I ended up with my optimal lap with an 8-second lap. And now all my coaching is incorrect and comparisons are not helpful. How can I get that feed?
She should contact support, and we can work with her on this specific case.
Okay, Kathy, contact support. Oh,
Garmin Picture at Garmin.com.
Okay, yeah, that's the best way, Kathy. Kevin asks, is there a way to see friends' opportunities? Interesting question.
There is not, unless they take their device and say, here are my opportunities.
Yeah.
Very clever, yes.
If they're a true friend, right?
Now, keep in mind, that's their opportunities.
Yes.
What you would really want is your data compared against their data.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's not how the opportunities work, right?
Yeah.
The closest you're going to get is the exercise Ross did earlier between my data and Scott Donahue's data at Barber.
Paul asks, can Catalyst learn a new autocross track and collect data for comparing drivers there? No. It has to be all but one exception in the world. It has to be a circuit. And that exception is Bridge to Gantry at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, which is very cool. And if you want, I will drive your car there. Rich asked, we use a Catalyst for endurance racing with 4 different drivers. Should we each have our own profile in the app?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the simple answer is yes, that's the best way of doing it. And I actually saw somebody else make a comment about they just changed profiles during a pit stop. Obviously, it depends on how long pit stops are. You have to decide. Eric asked, my Catalyst app shows only my 2022 sessions at Atlanta Motorsport Park. Cool. Shubenekity. How do I import the data from the actual Catalyst, presumably the Cloud 2, from 2020 and 2021 at Barber? Oof.
Those should be uploaded. If they are not, drop us a line at our support and we will get to you on that.
Okay.
Agreed. Should be there. Everything should have went up on your first sync.
Scott asked, this is an interesting one. How do I make the best use of the Catalyst when it starts to rain midday? I say if it starts to rain, just throw the Catalyst away, throw everything else away, and just go and play in the rain, because driving in the rain is the most fun you can ever have. So I'm biased. I love the rain. No.
Select the wet option when you're starting your drive. Touch dry, change it to wet. Simple.
Then you'll get the same opportunities and stuff just from the wet data.
As Griffin pointed out earlier, right, that sets up a whole separate collection of data that won't reference your dry sessions.
Arnie asked, why are there continuities in line from lap to lap? And I'm going to jump in here because we talked about this earlier today, guys, is my experience in going out and doing some of these events and demoing the Catalyst at the track is every now and then I will see somebody that has a line on the lap that looks a little wiggly, or the track looks a little wiggly. And you guys have helped me sort of understand that, in that it probably either the track didn't have enough time to collect the satellites prior to going out and learning the track, or the camera isn't aligned or set up properly. And those are the two issues. If you have a real issue with that, Arnie, I mean, again, contact support. They can walk you through it step by step.
Should we do a quick walkthrough to show how to relearn the track?
Can do. Actually, you know what? Let's set that one aside, and we'll come back to that if we've got time.
Deal.
Just trying to get through as many of these as we can. Will there be an ability to display data from the app, iOS, to another device, smart TV, use an AirPlay? How about directly from the Catalyst? Simple answer is no. Use the screen copy tool that's out there. And remember, Garmin can't support it, so because it's third party, and so you're kind of on your own with that, right? Kieran asked, possibility of future upgrade by having GPS integrated with camera. This way the Catalyst could be mounted lower or in a less distractible location.
That is a great idea.
Okay, noted.
I have had my camera disconnect from vibrations when I run over rumble strips. How can I avoid that?
Contacting support will let you go through all that and see where that issue lies.
Yeah, and you know, again, sort of being out there in various tracks and stuff like that, where I've had somebody, you know, I've seen some where it's plugged into the cigarette lighter, and you'll kind of walk over it, and the wire just like you touch the wire, and it's loose and it falls out. I mean, it's sort of a, you know, make sure that the plug is solid, because that's the biggest thing. If the camera loses power, it's gone, right?
Keep in mind that the camera gets power through the device mounted on the magnetic mount. If it comes away from the mount, then the camera is no longer powered. If that happens even momentarily, the camera will shut off, have to reboot when it gets power again, which will take time to re-engage. You can get an optional cage if you're driving in a really rough environment that will capture the device and hold it against that mount.
Yeah. Richard asked, I've been trying to save a photo with my profile, but using a saved photo or taking a new photo just gives an error message. There was an error saving data. Contact support.
Yes.
And, you know, sorry to kind of keep going there, but, you know, there's some of these things that can't be solved right here. And we're going to rush through because we got about 5 minutes left here.
And we need so much more information to be able to help.
Yeah.
We just can't.
Ari asked, my screen is mounted on my windshield just out of reach. I have to loosen my harness to get to it to touch. I tried using a pencil eraser to touch it, but it doesn't work. Any solutions?
My solution that I have is the first thing I do when I get in my car and I'm ready to go to grid is I press start and then I suit up. And then when I'm done, I get all done with my car and then I press stop.
Correct.
Okay. This one's funny. Eric asked, what's the email address for email questions that you didn't get to in the webinar? There we go. There it is. GarminPitCrew@Garmin.com. Arnie asked, to optimize the coach, would trying significantly different lines provide better coaching? And I'll take this one if you guys don't mind. It's just Arnie, what I wouldn't do is be very deliberate of, okay, I'm going to change my line way over here. You know, but at the same time, depending on the level of driver you are, then I would say that, you know, if you've kind of got to that point in your driving development where you are a consistent driver, also don't be afraid to experiment a little bit, because the great thing is the Catalyst will tell you exactly whether it was better or worse. And, you know, sometimes you'll go and try something in one corner and you go, I don't know, that felt a little better, but the lap time is slower. Well, maybe you weren't as quick for the rest of the lap. The great thing about the Catalyst is it will tell you whether that part of it was better. And if so, it will then encourage you to do more of that. So like I said, I'm, you know, generally, you know, unless maybe you're Hamilton or Verstappen, maybe there's enough variance in our driving that it's going to pick up those things. You may want to take a different approach though, like go, okay, I'm going to take this corner and focus on entry speed rather than exit speed, for example. That kind of a thing. You could try that and it will tell you whether it was better or worse. Tim asked, any plans to allow the coaching audio to be included on a saved lap?
Well, if you do have it loud enough and it is on your Bluetooth stereo, it will be picked up in the video.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
But in my Mustang and in my 911, I have the Catalyst paired with my car stereo through Bluetooth. And so it plays through the car stereo speakers, and the Catalyst microphone will pick that up and record it right with the video.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Grant asked, I can see my friends and see their stats, but not the squigglies.
See my friends.
So same as before, you'll have to go to a session that you have on a track that they also have, and then in the top right, just tap compare with friends.
And just so I'm clear, that's a really new feature. Is that correct?
Is very new. Yes.
So, you know, like if you tried to do that a week ago, you would not have been able to do that.
Right.
This week. Marvin asked, any chance you can add a feature to backup videos to the cloud. I would pay a subscription for that for the peace of mind of having my videos backed up.
Noted.
Great idea.
Noted. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Marvin. David, is the coach voice over available for replay so I can study it after a session? I think you just answered that one, Griffin.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Play it loud enough and it will record that. You'll hear it, right? Greg asked, is there a way to download the data independently to the video and reunite it with the video on a laptop?
No.
You cannot.
No. Greg asked, is there any lap data available to download to aid in first learning functionality?
You cannot.
I think what he's asking is, hey, just got a Garmin Catalyst today, won't be at the track for 3 weeks. Is there any data that can be just downloaded and you can kind of play with it? And
sample data.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Currently there isn't, but I
Find a
can
friend.
see these guys' minds going. So
Yeah, find a friend.
yeah. Brian asked, what's it say? Is a remote GPS receiver possible so the Catalyst can be remote mounted in open wheel sports racing cars?
It is not possible.
No.
Okay. Is there a YouTube video on how to set up the Catalyst app on Google plus iPad, as well as setting up a personal account might help users?
There may or may not be a video from support, but we did do that little quick demo.
Just
here.
created one.
So
Yeah.
you do that, but you create an account.
But I would say that the Garmin support page has got some videos and a lot of really great information. So, jump in there, just go to Garmin.com and go and hit support for the Catalyst and poke around there. There's some really great resources there. Paul asked, could there be a way, and we're going to finish this up in a couple minutes and then we're calling her good for the night here. So Paul asked, could there be a way to exclude laps from the average so the guidance is more targeted?
Say it again.
Could there be a way to exclude laps from the average so the guidance is more targeted?
It's not necessary. That's built in. The average lap is an intelligent average lap. It is already in a very intelligent, highly trade secret method, throwing out outliers from your entire session, hanging on to only those pieces of track where you were able to drive at your best, or I shouldn't say your best. It's not the optimal, right? It's looking at your typical, right? And averaging that, and then comparing that average, that intelligent average, to the optimal.
Okay. John asked, is there a way to get corner G, Excel, speed, like the app graph on the Catalyst?
No.
And
let me back up. In the saved video, G circle, it includes lateral acceleration.
And when you're looking at opportunities, there's some of those same, the delta, time compare, Excel or and speed are there. It's a little bit harder to see because it's a little bit smaller there. So having it in the app, to me, just makes sense. So Scott asked, how long will the theoretical best lap stay on the logger based on the same track layout? 1 day, 1 year, forever?
4 days.
4 days.
Can you just quickly explain that?
On the lap will look over your shoulder up to 4 days earlier. The idea is we're trying to capture one event, but by the time you leave and come back to that same facility later, enough will have changed that we start over with a new optimal lap.
Okay. Okay. So Mike asked, and I think this may be our last question, but Mike asked, sometimes the optimal line in a turn on the Catalyst, and it disagrees with a coach or instructor who presumably knows the track well. Who's right? Guess what? As a coach, I'm going to say the Catalyst It does not know that track. It knows what you did. And it's telling you that one time you drove the track on this particular line, and it was the fastest time you ever got through that segment of the track. So it's going to encourage you to do that. Now, if I come along or another coach comes along and says, hey, I know this track really well, and I know that you should try this, I'd listen to the coach. And then the Catalyst, if the coach is doing their job, if you drive it like the coach says, the Catalyst is going to agree by saying that was when you turned your quickest segment through there.
Yes. The only time it would disagree is if you have tried both and did the coach's way well. Right. Keep in mind that the Catalyst is simply timing your pass through each maneuver. And you can drive a lousy line fast and drive a good line slow and trick the Catalyst into saying, oh, well, you should drive the lousy line, of course. It only knows what you show it. If you've never shown it that really good line that the advanced instructor is trying to get you to try, then the Catalyst can't show you that. It doesn't know that. You have to show it.
Yep. Okay. The last question. John asked, are driving gloves available with fingertip that works on a Catalyst touchscreen? I don't know.
I don't know. I know there are gloves available. I don't know if there are fireproof driving gloves.
Actually, I think my gloves are.
That are available. Like
I have some Sparco lap gloves that have little bits on there. I think they're fire covered. So, and those work very well.
They'll have a label that tells you.
Oh, it has a big label.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. We've now gone a couple minutes over our the time that we set up for this thing. And first of all, thank you for all of you for being on there and having amazingly fun, interesting, challenging questions. I think you can see that a lot of the questions or comments and everything, well, if these guys are listening, I think that's the great thing. So one of the things I'm going to just put out there is, if those of you who are looking to purchase a Catalyst, you might want to kind of pay attention this weekend and around this weekend and the 4 days around between Thursday and Monday, and particularly Friday and Monday. Just pay attention to dealers and things like that. That's all I'm saying. Hint, hint. Okay. And if you know somebody that's looking to buy one, pass that information on to them. So, and
if you have not downloaded the app up to this point, we've had over 110,000 sessions uploaded to the app. So download it and let us know your thoughts.
Yeah. And, again, we have on my Speed Secret side, I have that 551 process thing. If you go to my website resources, you can see it in there and you can download it. It's a great way if you're getting used to it. I've had people who've been using a Catalyst for 2 years and they look at it and go, oh, that's a different way to look at it. I like that. So, or other people say you're an idiot and go away. So don't worry, you're not going to bother me that if you do that. But the last video that's on the on my Speed Secrets YouTube channel, go through that for some other information as well. Guys, I think that's it. And yeah, share your optimal lap up to us, and we will have some fun, and you'll be a superstar on YouTube someday, and make all the millions of dollars that the superstar YouTubers are. Well, no, you're not. No, sorry, that is wrong. I'm joking there. Okay. Guys, thank you so much for being on here and sharing your expertise, but also for listening to all this feedback, because I know the Catalyst just keeps getting better and better and better and better. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. With that, everybody, I'm going to call her quits here. And as always, keep learning and having fun. Thanks.